Hi, I'm standing on Harcourt Hill, not very far from the main road, and I'm not quite as worried about road noise as I was because I've got less to explain. I did 2 previous Springwalk videos here about horsetails, and these are a sort of sister group of plants to the ferns. Like ferns, they propagate by spores, not seeds. They don't have flowers, and they arose at the beginning of the Carboniferous era about 300 million years ago. When I did my first Springwalk video about them, there was very little to be seen, just loads of brittle brown stems left over from last year. And then I did a second video, which I'd timed carefully because I wanted to catch something. And what I caught then was what are called the fertile stems. Ferns have spores on the back of their fronds, brown patches you'll see. Horsetails grow their spores in little blobs on the end of sort of fungus-looking cones on whitish stems. So you have all these sort of white, definitely not green, white and brown little stems with brown blobs in. And those are the so-called fertile stems. They're fertile because they contain spores which will eventually fall onto the ground and grow into new horsetails. Cutting long story short. But horsetails are actually very attractive, and to see that you have to wait until the other type of stem arises. You've got the fertile stems, which I've just mentioned. You've also got green stems with circlets of little sort of stems on them, which have nothing to do with reproduction. They're just green for photosynthesis, for energy production. And these have come out now. I think, like everything else, they're earlier than normal. We've had such fine weather. It's been sunny day after day and warm, and I think that must have brought just about everything forward. So I'm going to walk down to where I videoed them before. Previous video was videoing the fertile stems. And there's a sort of patch of them in a wood at the side of somebody's garden down here. But I don't need to go into the garden very far to see the sterile stems, the green stems, because they're all over the place. And you can see they're in various stages of development, but they're clearly unlike any other plant round here. And that's because they're a much older and different type of plant. Some of them do look quite alien. And I presume those will come out and spread those little stems in the manner of the ones on the right. So that will eventually get like that, or those. Well, my phone has just told me the video recording is currently in progress. Do I want to quit? Which is a ridiculous question, because if I did, I'd have said so. I've no idea why it asked me that. This is a verge where there are more of the plants. When I first photographed it, it was full of spring violets. So you can see that these horsetails are not shy. They're all over the place. And they will become much more splendid as they mature. Now there's a big one. And they're interesting because they're such an old group of plants that has survived. Once upon a time they grew to tree height. No longer, sadly. Those species have vanished. And they're known for having a very high silica content, which they probably use to give themselves extra rigidity, and which people used to use for pan scourers, use these things as scourers. I suppose that was before the invention of the Brillo pad. So those are horsetails on Harcourt Hill. Well, I hope you can see that says Arlington Drive. The sign is pretty scuzzy. I walked here from Harcourt Hill, where I showed those horsetails, because I want to show some more, show that they're not just a Harcourt Hill speciality. The only reason I'm on Arlington Drive itself is that I wanted to confirm the road name so that I didn't mislead anybody. But I came here through the university parks and obviously with a few other bits and pieces in between from Harcourt Hill. And I'm going to go back there through a cut through. Arlington Drive is okay. It's basically fairly quiet, spread out housing, nothing particularly special. It's part of the New Marston estate, and I guess it's a lot less cramped than it would be if somebody were to develop it today from scratch. So that's where I want to go. This is where I've just come in the other direction. I've done at least one video in which I walked through the parks, over the Rainbow Bridge, along the footpath that leads off the other side, off the other end, and then at the end of that footpath I turned left and followed that, and that's what I did today to take me to Arlington Drive. And it's a glorious walk in the sun, so I think I'm going to video it all the way back to the bridge. But let me show you the horsetails first. So this is the cut through that I took. And it's really nice to hear these birds. Listen to that. Now, as I pointed out in my first video, this stuff is not horsetails, even though it has leaves spread out in the same sort of arrangement. It's goosegrass. There are more horsetails further up, but I shan't bother going that far because I saw some, or at least one, down here on the way. So I'm now walking along a little stream beside Arlington Drive, which is through there. And there are some horsetails. There's another. There's There's another. And I think that's where they stop in this direction. It's quite specific. I've not seen any further on this side of the meadow. They seem to start where the wood provides shade, and they'll gradually get more and more numerous as you go up there. So what I'm going to do now is to walk back to the parks and just enjoy the scenery. I I'm not sure that this feels like spring anymore. It's more like early summer, but it is pretty warm too. I think it could be around 27 or 28, which is very nice. And this, where the runner is going, is the path back to the parks. And there's quite a lot of this around. And something about its heavy scent, overlaid perhaps with a faint odour of burning rubber tyres. It's very distinctive. And for some reason it makes me think irresistibly of Greek gods. I don't know why. Okay, well, I'm now back at the Rainbow Bridge. So that was Harcourt Hill and also the path alongside Arlington Drive with Horsetails. See you next time.